Hi, this is John of Trish and John's Gardening Channel. Today is June 27th, 2015. We wanted to give you a real quick update on our garden's progress. We started putting the garden in, started to put our first plants in the ground on May 23rd, Memorial Day weekend. And we've been putting them in, more and more plants in the ground over the last few weeks. We wanted to give you an update on where we are after just about 35 days of starting to plant. Number one, we'll start out with our peppers. These are our Chinese 5-color peppers, doing really well. We've got 3 plants here, you can see, loaded with peppers. We're hoping to start seeing these things change color in the next week or two. I've never grown these before, so I'm not sure of the, how these actually grow. I know they change color, I just don't know how long that takes. So as you can obviously see, they're all purple at this point, but a bunch of peppers on those 3 plants. We've got a mini bell red pepper. All of the pepper seeds that I've got this year that are from Baker Creek, those are doing quite well. You can see they're starting to blush, starting to turn almost a black color. That's okay. They're going to turn red. That's just a natural progression. We've got more mini bells, and we've got our Anaheims. Now you can see there, hopefully, that we got a bunch of Anaheims starting to grow. We actually picked our first 3 Anaheims yesterday. More Anaheims over there. Another mini bell pepper. Here we've got our kale. Now I cut this down yesterday. We actually gave some kale away to a friend of ours. Actually some cilantro as well in the back. That's why it looks a little bit raggedy. Also, it's been raining. Last night we probably got probably close to an inch of rain last night, so you can see here that the garden's very wet. So kale's loving it. The cilantro's a little beat down, but we did cut that back yesterday. We used that for guacamole. Trish made guacamole, so that was fantastic. We've been cutting this kale down now for weeks now. It just continues to come up. The weather's been untraditionally cold here in southwestern Connecticut. We've been down now, we get days up in the 80s, but like today is 60 degrees. It's been raining. It'll probably stay 60 degrees all day today, or maybe 70. And the kale and the cold weather type crops, they love it. So I guess it's good for them, not so good for the tomatoes, right? So, or the peppers or the eggplants. So here's our radishes. You can see they're just starting to blossom. Of course, with this wet weather, they are loving it. So we're going to probably be picking our our radishes sometime this week, in the next week or so. That's been in the ground at least 20 days or so. Our lavender doing really well. This is in size, this is about 10 times the size as it was last year. This is a carryover from last year's garden. I'm gonna have to, not sure what that is right now. I know that's an herb. Maybe someone could tell me. I'm sure Trish knows, but offhand it doesn't come to mind. That's Trish's parsley. She planted that by seed. Just kind of come around this way. Of course, some marigolds for companion planting, draw bees into the garden, and our basil. Basil's doing better this year. I've been hitting it with a lot of nitrogen. It's coming back, although with this colder weather, it may slow down a bit, but we're gonna have to cut this one down in the next week or so. Our eggplants, they're doing okay. The 3 in the back are doing better than the 2 in the front here. These are Black Beauty. The 2 in the front we did get from a different source. We got from Van Wilgen here locally. Not doing as well. I'm not sure why. I mean, I water them the same as the 3 in the back, so maybe just a different source and a different variety. Although they're all Black Beauties, they're not all from the same source. So again, I think these are not taking off because of the weather. I think these traditionally need much hotter weather, hot days, a little bit drier. It's been a little bit wet, like I said. You can see here they're soaked. So I'm thinking or hoping that we can get some hotter weather in the next couple weeks here as we move into July. Again, it's June 27th, and we can start seeing these guys take off. We've got our Conjari melons here, doing okay. The rain has been beating these down. I've planted, you can see there, right there is the cucumbers. I threw some market more in just in between where some of the Conjari melons didn't come up. Again, these look pretty beat down. It was a test this year These guys, if they grow, fantastic. If not, I guess no harm, no foul. I just wanted, caught my eye on Baker Creek Seed Companies. These are Joe Simcox Explorer Series seeds. So I wanted to try them. It's actually like $4, so if they don't grow, no big deal. We are in the Northeast, and things like melons and cucumbers, actually melons in general, and watermelons even, as you can see here, we're going to try these as well, but they don't grow as well. Watermelons and melons, they just don't have long enough growing season, and I think it's just not warm enough, but we try them anyway. So these are doing quite well. They grew, these doubled in size. You can see this is all new growth here, so that's looking pretty good. Maybe we'll get one watermelon off of that. Coming around, we've got 4 o'clocks over there. Those are carryovers from last year. They self-seeded. I had some in that area. I guess you call them volunteer plants. We've got our corn here. Again, this is really for cover. I know planting them in a row like that is not traditional. You probably want to block them out, but I just wanted to put them more as a row cover, if you will, or basically just wanted to use that area. I figured why not, and if I could self-pollinate these, I'll do that. Just if we get 1 or 2 corn cobs off that would be pretty cool. We've got zinnias in this area. I planted those just a day or so ago. This tomato plant is it's actually the Maxifort Rootstock. This is a test. I'm going to see how this one grows. I'm probably going to cut that down. This doesn't produce tomatoes per se, but I'm curious to see what it does produce. And so I just threw it in the ground. It was the last of the 10 Maxifort Rootstock seeds that I planted. All of our mint. More 4 o'clocks inside this watering can. These cans last about 2 seasons. I leave them out, here at the community garden all season, so they get beat up and they get cracks and holes. And so, when that happens, I'll go ahead and repurpose these. And you can see I just filled it with dirt, and we've got our 4 o'clocks there coming along quite nicely. Our comfrey just going crazy. Now that I'm going to be cutting down in the next week or so. I'll pretty much cut that down to the ground, or very close to the ground, and I'm going to be using all of those leaves. So I'm going to make a compost tea with those leaves. This is fantastic herb. If you can find this, I highly recommend putting this in the ground. This has a very deep taproot. It goes down and it takes the minerals from really deep in the soil, brings them up and distributes it within the leaves. And when you cut them down and use it for compost, you're getting the benefit of those minerals. And also this has an enzyme that helps break down compost. So this is a really good supercharger for your compost pile. And I just use it. I throw that in the ground and it breaks down. You can see mint here. So we get into tomatoes here. Now I call this my Walter D's 2007. I last planted these seeds in 2007. I forgot I had the seeds. It's an Italian plum tomato. This was brought, these seeds were brought almost 30 years ago, straight from Italy. So these have been only grown for a few select people, his friends, and I happen to be lucky enough to get some seeds. So again, I forgot about these seeds, but had them in my toolbox. So they've just been kicking around, and decided to try them, and they're growing pretty well. Got some flowers on there, so hopefully we can get a few of these this year and then start these back up starting next season as far as saving the seeds. Again, that's Italian plum. Then we got 3 black crim here. You can see there we've got our first fairly large black crim that'll be ripening up in the next couple weeks, but doing very well. You can see the color on all of my tomato plants are doing quite well. I have not gotten any blight condition whatsoever. Cross my fingers, knock on wood. I have nothing yellowing at all. Now I have created a barrier between the soil and the lower leaves. You can see there I take off a lot of the lower leaves. I don't mulch. I'm not a big mulch fan. I know that would probably help with some of the blight, but right now you can see I don't have a blight condition. None of these plants have yellowing of the leaves or anything any sign of blight or anything like that. So doing quite well. You can see there, hopefully in the back, more tomatoes developing there. Again, that's a black crim, the one on the right. More tomatoes there. That's a black crim. Now when I start seeing tomatoes coming like this, it's a good sign, because there's always a concern with putting too much nitrogen in the soil, and if you do that, you're going to end up with a lot of green that you see here. And the problem is you'll start getting flowers and then they'll die off. They'll just drop off. So the fact that I am getting tomatoes is a good sign for me anyways, that shows that I haven't put too much nitrogen in the soil. So far I've been doing a good balance. I've also been putting the Epsom salts and the azomite. So, okay, this guy is a pink brandywine, quite short compared to its sister in the back there. I'll show you that in a minute. That one is just going nuts. Same seeds, planted at the same time. Now, I do have that one in the back there in a grow bag. Maybe that's the difference. I don't know. That's one of the reasons why I like to grow in these grow bags here. But I also traditionally plant in the ground just because, A, I don't have enough grow bags for the amount of plants that I have, but I think growing in the ground is perfectly fine. I just think that there's advantages to the grow bags. You know, side-by-side comparisons, you can see there the sister, it's the same vintage, same seeds as this one here. Again, that's a pink brandywine here, and that's a pink brandywine. I mean, that's as tall as I am. I mean, it's a foot higher than the other ones because of the grow bag, but it's even still, that's at least 4 foot tall. And I planted that, I buried that guy in the ground at least a foot. So, doing very, very well. This is a tomato carbon. Again, you can see there, we've got some tomatoes developing. Really good sign. This plant has a bunch of tomatoes on it. This is one of the tomato plants that are doing quite well. It hasn't taken off. It's pretty stocky. It's staying low, but it's, you know, it's branching off and giving me a lot of tomatoes. I don't cut all of the suckers. That's the other thing I wanted to mention. I cut suckers selectively. I cut the suckers off from the base of the plant. But once it starts growing, I pretty well let these things grow. A lot of people like cutting the suckers, and I think there's an advantage to that. But I do it selectively. I kind of do it based on how I'm feeling that day, what the plant looks like, etc. So I just don't cut the suckers all the time. I kind of just play it by ear, if you will. So again, one thing I want to mention, the grow pots. One of the things I like about the grow pots, it's been very, very rainy lately here in Connecticut, and by using the grow pots, they do tend to dry out quicker, which could be a pain in the neck as far as watering is concerned. So if you had many tomato plants, you may not want to take this approach. But the fact that I could let that dry out over the next couple days is an advantage, I think, over putting it in the ground. Once that water gets in the ground, you can't take it back. And it takes much longer for this plant to dry out on the base than say that plant. So that is an advantage, and it's another reason why I like using those grow pots. So water regulation is a little bit easier. This guy here, not sure what's going on with him. He's just not taking off. I mean, it's healthy. It's definitely healthy, but that's a Paul Robeson. I've never grown that before, but there is another Paul Robeson that I'll show you in a minute that's, again, the sister to this plant. Planted the same day, same seeds, packet and everything, but not doing as well. This one is in the ground versus the other one that I'll show you. So maybe the smart pots have something to do it. I don't know. This is sunflowers and bachelor buttons, I think these are. Yeah, the little ones are bachelor buttons. So hopefully we'll get a taller sunflower and the lower bachelor buttons. That's the idea. We have 2 of these pots. This is an Amana Orange here, doing quite well. Again, it looks good. I've got some tomatoes on there, if I can see them here. Thought I had a couple on this plant. Yeah, just starting to develop there. So looking good. This guy is a San Marzano right here. Kind of short. I got another San Marzano doing a little bit better than this guy. You can see the color. It's really, really good. This is a carbon tomato. Again, unlike its sister over here. If I back up, right? So here's the tomato carbon here. You can see that. Now it's in a grow pot. It's the same vintage, same seed packet. It's planted the same day, and yet this guy, for whatever reason, has just taken off as opposed to this guy. Not that he's doing badly, but just not as well, and not sure why. I mean, same conditions. This one was planted outside a little bit later, so that could account for it. You know, a week in the, outside makes a big difference with tomatoes, so that could be it. Amana Orange here, doing okay. This is one of the last ones I put in the ground, and this guy here is actually my grafted one on the left. That's the grafted tomato, Amana Orange, on Maxifort Rootstock. Almost caught up to this guy here. It was way behind because I cut obviously topped the plant, and it took a while, lost a couple weeks in the grafting process. So the one on the right, Amana Orange, one on the left, grafted. Amana Orange, the one on the right, non-grafted, I should say. And so far, it's caught up, I think, in growth. We'll have to see how it does as far as, you know, producing fruit. It does have flowers, as you can see there. And just to show you here, if I can get down there, you can see there, that is the grafted area. Pretty well, absolutely healed over. You can almost hardly tell where the graft is at this point. Okay, this guy here is a Cherokee Purple, doing quite well. You can see there we've got some fruit over there. Bear with me with the camera. This is the second of the two 007s that I have. You can see there. Again, that's an Italian plum tomato. A little bit wafty. I'm not sure if that's because of the fact that these are older seeds, but it is, you can see there, it is starting to produce fruit. So that's a good sign. My goal with these is just to get one or two really good, ripe, healthy fruit off of these plants, and then I'll be able to save them for next year, and hopefully, you know, I could have new seeds of the same type of plant next year and start out with a fresh set of seeds and not a, you know, 8-year-old seed packet. This is a Paul Robeson. He's doing quite well compared to the other Paul Robesons that I've got in my garden. Nice and tall, bearing fruit already, as you can see here. I mean, all of my tomato plants, just about all of them, have fruit at this point. So that's a really good thing. Again, I was concerned with the nitrogen, the amount of nitrogen I was putting in the soil. There's always that concern. You don't know where that balance is, but I think I got it just about right, at least this point. I won't be fertilizing these for another couple weeks again. So this is another Cherokee Purple. You can see there, fruit. A couple there. We got one in the back now. This one in the back, if you can see that, you can see that. That one's cat facing. You can see there on the bottom, that weird pattern. There's nothing wrong with that tomato. That's just the way some of these heirlooms are. I don't think there's anything particular that I did to this plant to make that happen. I think that's just the nature of the beast. You can see this other tomato on the same plant. A little bit of a cat face, but not as drastic as the other one. Now, not a problem with the cat facing. You let it grow normally. You can eat that. And I've heard that the cat-faced ones sometimes taste better than even some of the normal ones, if you will. Not sure if that's true, but I have read that. So now here's the pink brandywine. You can see here this thing is just taken off. 5'8". This is just about, it has to be about 5 foot tall. Now it is in that grow pot, so you know, if this was in the ground, it'd be about 4 feet tall. But you can see there, doing unbelievably well. We've got some tomatoes there. We got a larger one here. You can see in there, right there, and you can see these leaves here are tremendous. I love the look of this potato leaf plants. They have a tendency, very interesting with some of these plants, like this one in particular, where the leaves tend to go down. They actually push themselves down as if they're trying to protect their fruit, you know, as if a mother would do. I don't know if that's true, but it just seems very unusual and typical for these very strong plants. They tend to have the leaves that go downward. So that's that. What else do we have? Another San Marzano here. And you can see I put marigolds, companion planting. I'm hoping the 4 o'clocks, there's another one there, start flowering. These have a lot of flowers at 4 o'clocks, and they bring in hummingbirds, and they bring in a lot of pollinating insects, bees, whatnot. So I would encourage you to put companion flowers in your garden, but the 4 o'clocks are really good. They start late in the season, but once they start flowering, they just don't stop for the rest of the season. So let me take a quick walk. Again, all these tomatoes doing good. We've got our sunflower. That's a volunteer. He came up on his own from last year's planting. This is a Jet Star. I just got this at a local, so I went ahead and got this. Also, I had the room, so I threw them in. I've got 30 tomato plants in my garden this year. I believe that's an Amana Orange. I have a lot of Amana Orange because I did topping of my tomato plants and saved the tops in case of the grafted one, for instance. So you can see those two, that one and that one. Those are a red brandywine. Those I also picked up at a garden center. These two. These are starting to come. They're slowly growing. I mean, obviously much bigger than they were a couple weeks when I put them in the ground, but they're not taking off like some of the others. For instance, this big boy here, that one is tripled in size. I think I put this in the ground like 2 weeks ago, and it just loves it here. Again, those grow pots really seem to help some of the tomatoes along. Next year I might even grow everything in the grow pots. But anyways, here is an Italian eggplant. Again, I've got 5 eggplant down the other end. I just plopped this one here. You can see this one's much healthier, much larger. I did get this one at a different home improvement center. It looks like he's doing quite well. So oregano, now if you've seen some of my older videos, I think the last video we had cut this one down almost to the ground, not quite, but this has come back. I'm going to have to do something to probably control this guy. He's taken over too much of my garden, so I'm going to have to come in here this week and go around with a shovel and slow him down. Very much like mint, where this thing just wants to take over. So it's not a bad thing, but at this point we have more oregano than we know to do with. So chives looking better. I think the cooler weather's helping this one along. So looking, that was looking a little bit more beat up earlier in the season. Again, more basil. We've got thyme. That's a normal, regular thyme. It's starting to flower. It's going to seed, so I'm going to have to cut this back. But it's looking good. I don't know if you remember, if you went back in my earlier videos. Again, this is a carryover from last year, as well as the lemon thyme there. These are doing quite well. They look pretty beat up over the winter, but they're coming back as we suspected. That's a dill. We planted that dill right there in the center shot, and then this dill on the left, that's actually a volunteer that came up from last year's planting, self-seeded, so that's kind of nice. And you can see the difference, a little bit greener there versus this. This one will probably go to seed a little bit quicker and flower. So carrots, I planted more carrots in there. I don't know if you could see here, but in the center we had a lot of open area here. Open area in the center. So I added more seeds the last week or so. But these are going slow. They're not really taking off. I mean, they're doing okay, but very, very slow growth. They've been here, seeded these probably a month ago or so. I don't plant carrots often. This is one of the reasons why I don't. I typically like plants that I could start seeing progress quicker. But we'll see how they do. Had the room, so we threw them in. This is a new plant. We mounded this. You can see there's just used a mound there. Dumped a bunch of garden soil and mounded it with you can see the difference between the native soil and the garden soil. So this was a 40-pound bag of garden soil. I just dumped it down and then just mounded it with the native soil. And that's a straight neck yellow squash. That should fill, if we don't get the bugs. We got a lot of bugs in the community garden here, but it should fill this whole area here in the corner of the garden. Okay, we got here, getting down to the end here, we've got what I call my mystery tomato plant. This thing is doing unbelievably well. Not sure what this is. It's just taking off. I marked it as a Paul Robeson, the PR down there. That's my best guess at what this might be. You can see a bunch of flowers there. No tomatoes yet, interestingly enough, although if I come down in here, maybe that's not true. You can see there, they are starting to bloom. It does look like some of the tomatoes are setting there. They're one way in the back. Hopefully you can see that. But very interesting. It looks very similar to the sun gold that you see here in the way the tomatoes are branching, but I just don't think this is a sun gold. It's not wafty. Typically, if you look at the sun gold, this is the sun gold here. It's just kind of a wafty, very not a sturdy plant at all. However, sun golds will give you, they're not a pretty plant, if that means anything, but if you could see here, we're already starting to get sun golds all over the place. And this whole corner, I planted 4 sun gold plants. This guy here, this guy, which he just, I don't know what's happening with him. We may not get any off of this guy. He may come back, but it's never really took off. But we do have at least 3 sun golds. This guy in the corner, and that one there in the back shot, all sun gold. So last year we had 2 sun gold, and we had enough sun gold, 2 sun gold plants, and we had enough sun golds to last us all summer. Once these start turning color and giving us tomatoes. We'll have tomatoes absolutely all summer long. They just keep coming, bowlfuls and bowlfuls. Small yellow cherry tomato, tastes like sugar. It's fantastic. This guy here is an Amana Orange. Now, if you compare this Amana Orange to the others that I have, now right there, if I got it in the shot, you can see it's already taken fruit, and it just loves this spot. Now it's in the ground. Again, I planted it just like I did all my other tomato plants, and you know, so maybe the grow pots don't make that big of a difference, right? I mean, he's doing fantastic. You know, you see the size of the stems here. Oops, I'm sorry. You know, almost as big as my finger. You know, very sturdy plant, loves it here. So, doing very, very well. And this guy here is a San Marzano tomato. I think there's a couple tomatoes. There's one there, little, but he's coming out. So, I've been tying these up. Now with weeding, you can see I've been weeding over the last few days, weeks, with the rain that we've been having. It's been hard keeping up, but doing pretty well. Just got to keep ahead of it. Now we put this cage here. We did this last year for the cucumbers. All of these cucumbers are Market More. I just threw a bunch of seeds in the ground. I overseed my garden with cucumbers because the bugs and voles and whatnot have a tendency to come in and take a bunch of them out, so I overseed. That way hopefully I get one or two. These are all Market More, planted in different stages, as you can tell. Now that one on the end is doing quite well. No bugs yet. This is the first year. Last couple years I've tried to grow cucumbers and they just don't do well here. They just get inundated with bugs. I think the community garden has a lot to do with that. There's so much land here, so much garden space that the bugs tend to congregate, and we get the stink bugs. Cucumber beetles come in and just, you can see here, it does look like something's been munching on that. So I'm gonna have to keep my eye on this. I do have some spray that I got from, I believe it's from Happy Frog. It's supposed to be chrysanthemum flowers, and it's nature friendly, but not bug friendly. So I've been trying that. I've got it on hand if needed. So about 36 days since we planted this garden in the ground, you know, started putting things in the ground, and I think it looks pretty darn good here. I'm happy with that. Again, that's more tomatoes here. You can see there, a bunch of tomatoes, and in the next, I don't know, 3-4 weeks, we should have a ton of tomatoes, and I cannot wait for my first tomato sandwich of 2015 growing season. I would plant all year just to have that first sandwich. That's actually why I started growing tomatoes in the first place. So anyways, you can see there more. All right, that's it for today. Again, June 27th. We'll give you an update in another couple weeks, but as you can see here, we're doing quite well. We're happy with the progress of our garden so far this year. Everything, just about everything, looks like it's doing okay. You know, we got a couple things that you always wish could be doing a little bit better, like our Conjari melons and our eggplant, but you know what? We're happy with this, especially with our herbs and our tomatoes. You can see there, hopefully you can see that. Yeah, the one pink brandywine that is absolutely towering over all of the rest of our tomatoes. And that's it for today. Again, I hope you have a good day, and if you like this video or our video series, please like them on YouTube and Google+. That would be fantastic. That would help us out, kind of spread the word, let people know what we're doing here. That's it. Have a really good day. Hopefully the sun comes out later. Kind of a dreary day here in the community garden, but you know, any day in the community garden is a good day, so no complaints. Have a really good day. Cheers.